What's up, big ballers, shot callers? Big Ken here. What's up, Monty? Welcome from the Grid to Room Sports Talk Show. What's up, Monty? How you doing, man?
Hey, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. Glad to be back, man.
Yeah, it
Missed
has
out
been
on
a
that week
minute.
zero.
What's that?
Yeah, I missed out on week zero last week. So let's see what we got going on week one here.
Yeah, man. Week zero was exciting, but again, welcome from the Grid
Yeah.
to Room Sports Talk Show. Man, college football is back. Week zero did not disappoint, like you just mentioned. Georgia Tech upsetting number 10, Florida State 24-21 in Dublin, Ireland. The Georgia Tech kicker made a 44-yard field goal as time expired. Um, yeah, so that was interesting. We'll also cover
Yeah.
some, NFL subjects. Cee Dee Lamb just signed. Brandon Ayuk signed. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation with Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. So these are the subjects that we will cover in today's show. Well, let's start off with college football first. I'll ask you a question, Monty. Do you think Florida State was overrated being ranked number 10 against Georgia Tech, or is it just one game? Because usually when upsets do happen, it is early in the year. So is it just like one game and Florida State will bounce back, or is Florida State absolutely overrated this year?
You know what? It's a possibility. It's tough to answer that right now. Like you mentioned, it's only week one. It's only week one. I mean, they lost a couple of people to the transfer portal. Like they lost, it's either 6 or 10 to the NFL draft. I believe it's 10.
Yes, their
So
quarterback, their running back. I know some defensive
yeah,
players. Their wide
yeah.
receiver was really good last year. That tall receiver went to the NFL also. He was really good. I know his name
But
on tip of my tongue, but he was yeah. They
yeah,
lost some
yeah, they
talent.
lost some players. But listen, this is the ACC. This is Florida State. They're known for reloading instead of rebuilding. I think they were the top 15, if I'm not mistaken, 11 recruiting class.
Yeah, Brandon
Which
mentioned
they,
that last week. Yep.
yeah. So I mean, they recruit out of Florida, which you can argue one or two as far as high school recruits out of Florida, Texas. So overrated. Time will tell. If they can run the table the rest of the way, and it's going to be tough. They got Clemson coming up. I think they play Notre Dame later on in the year. We're going to forget all about this loss. But if they lose a game that they shouldn't lose, maybe get upset by SMU or um, maybe Boston College might give them some trouble. Yeah, it's a possibility. But I don't know. Considering what they lost week one, it's just too tough to tell.
Yeah. Week one is when upsets happen. Week zero, whatever you
Yeah,
want to call it, because neither team is really. I mean, they've had scrimmages and stuff like that, but this is their first, real live action game in Dublin, Ireland. Not making excuses for Florida State at all. Not taking anything away from Georgia Tech. And I guess that's the question: is Georgia Tech just really going to be good? Going to be really, really good this year? They're decent, okay last year, or is Florida State just not as good as everyone thinks they were going to be? Preseason rankings are kind of hard to tell.
right,
Some
right.
preseason rankings are legit. Sometimes you can just throw it right out the window. So I don't know. Um, but the game was overseas. It's only the first game of the year, so you can't overreact to one game. But this Boston College game they got come up this Saturday is no joke either. If they go 0-2, I will say they're
That's
in
pretty
some
much
trouble. Because now have they only lost their first two games, but now that crap is in their head. We've lost two of our openers, you know. Yeah, and these are teams that they should beat on paper too. So, but both these teams are feisty though, because Boston College is kind of just like Georgia Tech. They're both
yes.
kind of like middle of the pack teams, like where they can beat you if you don't play good. I mean, you know what I mean? They're like a 7-5 teams
Yeah.
last year. They're okay. They're not great, but they're not a slouch. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I think I like obviously Florida State has the old Michigan coach, so I'm kind of rooting for him in a way. I'm not a big Florida State guy, but since the Michigan coach is there, I'm kind of paying
Yeah.
attention to them a little bit. Um, But I do like upsets, so I wasn't upset at all that Georgia Tech beat them. That was pretty cool. That was a really good way to start off the college season.
Oh
That
yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah. I don't think anybody expected that except for the Georgia Tech fans.
I didn't watch the game live. I'm sorry, what's that?
I don't think anybody expected that upset except for the Georgia Tech
Yeah,
fans.
you're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
I didn't see
I
it
was kind
coming.
of wondering it, but I didn't say anything about it last show. But they got off to such a fast start when me and Brian were talking about it. Like they scored in the first like 4 minutes of the game, and they made a 2-point conversion. On a trick play with the snap going to the tight end. They
Right,
got the 8-0
right.
start in 4 minutes, and everyone thought they might run out the gates. But then Georgia Tech came back and scored a touchdown in their first drive to make it 8-7. It changed the whole entire game, and it looked like the rest of the game, it was just close throughout the whole entire game. It looked like both teams were just dead even, man. I mean, I got stats for that game, but the one thing I noticed in this game is Florida State has absolutely got a kicker, man. He has a freaking cannon. He makes two 50-plus yard field goals in the first half.
Wow.
A 52-yarder to extend the lead to 11-7 from 8-7, and then he ties it as time expires in the first half to tie it up 14-14 against Georgia Tech Alpha 59-yard field goal. And this guy had about another 5 yards of distance. He could have made it from 64. It was
Wow.
way past the uprights.
Wow. Some
This kid's
NFL
got a
kickers that
leg.
won't make. Woo.
And this is the first
Wow.
game of the year, and you think he'll be nervous, but man, this kid is bombing
Mm.
field goals, man. Like,
Wow.
wow. So it looks like Florida State does have a kicker, which could come in handy. And if they have other close games this year, get some good teams, he can make a big kick to win the game or to tie it up or whatever the case may be. So, wow, that's interesting though. But yeah, I'm still a little bit surprised about Florida State, Georgia Tech. But like I said, Georgia Tech was no slouch last year. They went to a bowl game last year. Um, I got stats real quick, just cover that. But so Florida State's quarterback DJ, I can't hard to say his last name.
Yeah, that name.
Uge. He's
I won't
bounced
even try it.
around. He's bounced around all over college football. I like him. His
Mhm.
freshman year, he's at Clemson, backing up, Mr. Hairdo at Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
He came in one time during his freshman year when old boy got hurt and he had to play one game. He played really good that game and they won that game.
Yes.
His sophomore year, he played at Clemson. They didn't have a bad year, but they didn't have a national champ. They didn't have a national championship year, so some people thought he wasn't that great. But I thought he was okay. They were still 9-3 and ranked, which not 9-3 isn't bad, but compared to what Clemson was at, that was a bad year for him compared to the past like 5 or 6 years previously. With Trevor Lawrence, Hairdo, and all these other guys
Yes.
before him. So you know, but then he transfers to Oregon State last year, has a decent year at Oregon State. Oregon State was ranked last year, a really good team. Gave UW a game in their game
Yeah.
in the rain game. I watched the game. That game was very close. That game came all the way down to the last drive of the game. UW securing it, running out the clock, getting the first down, so they couldn't get the ball back. I like him, but he's got a cannon of an arm. He's big. He's like 6'5", 250. But they do say sometimes he's a little bit inconsistent in passing. I haven't seen enough of him to know that, but I guess the experts say that he has a really good arm, but sometimes he can be a little bit wild. That's the talk about him. I don't know if you've watched him or not.
I just heard the talk about him as well. I got news for you. We were talking about this loss to Florida State. It's early, how early it is. Sometimes they don't mean anything, but let's remember we got this 12-team playoff.
Yep.
Now, what if we have one of these teams like Liberty last year, or a mid-major team that's always good, like Appalachian State? They go undefeated. They're in that 13, 14 rank area. This is where that loss could hurt Florida State.
I agree with you. But could Liberty
If it comes
compete?
down to that.
I want to see a small school get in, but you're absolutely
Yeah,
right. I'm not against small schools, so people don't get that wrong. I'm not against
right.
small schools at all, but me and Brandon kind of touched this up a little bit last week. If that happens, who would he put in a team that probably can't compete, or would you
Mhm.
try to get this small team a chance because they have no losses or only one loss. Another school has
Right.
2 losses. That will be a very big discussion,
Right.
very big debate. Liberty didn't. Problem with Liberty was, I mean, Liberty is just an example. But the problem with Liberty last year is they played in the Capital One bowl game and they got their butts kicked. I can't remember who they played, but they got blown out. That was a problem that might stick in some people's minds because that game wasn't even close. If they would have played better last year, even if they lost, but even a loss, if you play really well, that can stand well for small schools, right? Because at least they competed all the way until the end. They weren't like it was a game all the way until like the end of the fourth quarter. So I don't know. I think it just depends on how well that team's playing at the time on paper. I guess the small school and the big school. That's where the debate would be. Because if the small school is 12-0 and they're just beating the brakes off all their competition, you probably have to give them a chance, I guess. If they're kind of like in closer games against weak competition, I think they won't get in.
Yeah, it'll make it interesting. That's why the Florida schedule, they have Miami, which is always tough. Like I mentioned, Notre Dame, Clemson. They most likely, well, they can't lose those for sure. I mean, this is where that Florida State loss hurt them. That way, if it does come down to that, I think that would give them the advantage. That yes, they did beat those top, because I'm sure those teams will be in the top 15, top 20 somewhere. But in that aspect, I think it did hurt Georgia, but it's too early to tell. If it comes down to that, they could on at the end of the year.
It could. If they only lose one game, it won't hurt them. If they lose the second game, it'll hurt them. Absolutely.
Yeah, this just put them in the hole because they have these tougher teams coming up.
They do have tougher teams coming up. Yeah, they could lose 3 games. They lose 3 games. We know they're not getting in.
Yeah, they're out.
But if they lose, if they have a two lost season, it'll be interesting. But I don't know. But there's been so many 10-2 teams in the past, though, that's still been ranked in the top 10. I mean, like around 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, this 12-team format opens that up a little bit. We might see 1 or 2 with 2 losses, depending on who they lost to or when they lost. So, it's possible.
It's possible. That's what Brian and I are talking about. There won't be a lot, but there could be 1 or 2 because if they're playing really well and they're in a power conference and they're playing really well, they could get in, Like Michigan might be a 10-2 team, some of these big name schools could be 10-2 and everyone knows they can compete in the college football playoffs, So that'll be interesting. Like I said, I don't want to take away from small schools, but it's kind of hard to go against a team like Michigan when they're playing a level of competition, or a team like Georgia or Alabama if they lose 2 games, and because Alabama's lost 2 games, not often, but there's been a couple times where Alabama didn't make the old college football playoffs because they lost 2 games and they're still beating the brakes off people, being like ranked number 8 or 9 or 10, where they go to the bowl game, they just destroy this team. So they can get in, So that'll be interesting. But I was going to go over stats. I just hit it up quickly. But the only thing I noticed was Ukulele was 19 out of 27 for 193. Georgia Tech's quarterback Haynes King was 11 out of 16 for 146. The biggest difference I noticed was the running game, though. Georgia Tech running back had a really good game, 11 carries, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And the Florida State running back, Rodell Williams, was 12 carries, 38 yards, and 1 TD. So Georgia Tech's running back had twice as many yards and an extra touchdown, 2 touchdowns instead of 1. To me, that was the difference. And that's how Georgia Tech was able to hold the ball the last 6.5 minutes of the game. They kicked that game-winning field goal because they could run the ball. They did after Florida State tied at 21-21 with 6.5 to go. Georgia Tech just ran that clock down. They kicked that 44-yard field goal. So, running game was big for Georgia Tech, real big. So
that's the key to beating any Florida State team. Watching them as much as I watched them, they have these wide open offenses that they score. I mean, power offenses, high quick scoring offenses for the most part. So keep them off the field. You have a good shot, and that's what Georgia Tech did.
Yep. and on the tying drive that Florida State had to tie it 21-21 in the middle of the fourth quarter, they went for it on fourth down twice at midfield. These weren't short fourth down plays. Like one was like a 4th and 7, the other one was like 4th and 8 and 4th and 9 with like over 7-8 minutes to go in the game.
Wow.
And they're going for it on 4th and long at midfield. So I didn't see the game live. I guess the coach felt like we need to go for it. Maybe he felt like we may not get the ball back or something, you know. He's like, we got to go for it now. Because usually with 8 minutes to go, you're at midfield and it's that long. 4th and 1, yeah, I see that, you know. But these are 4th and 8s, man, at midfield, and he's going for it.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get those, man, Georgia Tech is like set up to take a 2-score lead, you know.
Yeah, he saw something on film, or maybe there was some, I didn't see the game either, so maybe something going on during the game that
there has been some kind of coaching feeling. Like he had a sense of the game. Like I didn't see the game live to know what he was thinking. Like he must have felt something, but it worked out for him because they did get the tying touchdown. But you know, like I said, Georgia Tech ran the rest of the clock out. You know, and their kicker made a clutch kick. You know,
Yes.
44 yards under pressure is not easy to win the game, and especially the first game of the year when you never really kicked yet in the game live. You know, that was pretty impressive.
Right.
But Florida State's kicker, like I said, was impressive too in the first half. But you can't take anything away from Georgia Tech because he made it to win the game. You know, so that was wow. I was like, wow, that was impressive, man.
Yes.
Well, but let's move on to week 1 matchups. Number 14, Clemson at Georgia. I think they're playing at the Atlanta Falcons Stadium. Brandon mentioned it last week. I think it's like the Chick-fil-A Bowl or whatever they call it. Not Chick-fil-A Bowl, but Chick-fil-A is sponsoring it, or whoever sponsors it now. They're not playing at Georgia's home field, you know, but they still are in Georgia, so it's obviously still a home game for Georgia, still playing at Atlanta Falcons Stadium. So who do you got in this game? Do you think Clemson can upset Georgia? I don't think so, but I think they can keep it close, maybe.
I'd love to see a good game, but no, not Georgia. I don't see him pulling a Florida State here. I don't see it at
No,
all.
I don't see that either. Georgia's not Florida State. Yeah, I agree with you, man. And they're pissed off from last year. So
yeah. As much as I like Clemson, I like their players, like their coach, but yeah, that's a tough task to draw Georgia your first game. Yeah.
And there's a big difference between being number 14 and being number 1. Yeah, you're a top 25 team, but like a top 5 team versus like a 14, 15, 20th ranked team is totally different, man. You know, Clemson obviously can still have a pretty good year, even if they lose, which more likely we think they'll lose this game. They can still have a good year. I wonder if they can maybe squeak into the playoffs. I don't think so. I think they're going to be. I think Clemson is a legit ranked top 25 team, but I think they're going to have like 3 losses. I expect them to go like 9-3 again and make it to like a New Year's Day bowl game. They'll be good, but they're not going to be. They just haven't had that championship caliber the past 4 or 5 years, or 3 or 4 years, however long it's been since
I agree.
since their quarterback left to the Jaguars. This is the upset I got. I absolutely have number 20 Texas A&M upsetting number 7 Notre Dame at College Station at Texas A&M. I know Dwayne, you're a Notre Dame fan. I do think Notre Dame is a very good team, but I just don't take Notre Dame seriously ever for a national championship ever. So sorry, Dwayne, I just don't. So I got Texas A&M upsetting them.
Man, they got to go to College Station, all that noise. They call their crowd the 12th man as well, don't they?
Yep, they do. Well, they have a 12th man player. They play with a 12th man. That's the difference.
Yeah,
they have a non-scholarship player that plays on special teams.
Oh, that's what that's about. Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I know that's a loud stadium and
it's very loud there, yes.
Tough for anybody to go in there. And man, for Notre Dame to draw that on the road, man, I think I'm gonna have to go with A&M as well, man.
I'm going with A&M. Like I said, Dwayne, other Notre Dame fans, I do think Notre Dame is good. It doesn't mean their season's over if they lose this game, but that is a very tough place to play in week 1. And unfortunately, Notre Dame's made it to the college football playoffs a lot, and they never do anything. That's why I have them always being suspicious. But like Brandon said though, they have a really good defense this year. They have like top level defensive players on every layer of the defense. Brandon mentioned that last week. So Brandon thinks, me
Yes.
and Brandon did the show last week, and Brandon expects Notre Dame to be good. So I know Dwayne's gonna like that. So, but like I said, I definitely think Notre Dame is definitely a legit top 15 team. But like I said about Clemson, I just don't know if they're like a top tier team, being in the top 10, top 15, absolutely about. I just don't know about top 10. Um, so that's where I have suspicions about Notre Dame every year. But we'll see. It should be a good game. I think it's gonna be the best game of the week.
It'll be a great
Honestly,
game.
I'm gonna be tuned into that one if I
It'll be a
can.
great game.
I got Pee Wee games that Saturday, but hopefully that game comes on when I'm not at a Pee Wee game. I don't know, but hopefully I can watch it. Um, the last top 25 matchup: number 23 USC at number 13 LSU.
Yeah.
My question is USC's defense any better? Because we know USC's defense got trashed last year with
Nope.
Caleb Williams. He got so frustrated with their defense.
I'm sure they're better, but not better, good enough to beat LSU. Oh man, not that offense. No. And traditionally, USC is known to have bad defenses,
Yeah,
far back as I can remember. And oh no, I don't see it. I see LSU winning big, 2 touchdowns.
yeah, they'll probably win big unless USC's offense just scores and it's a shootout. But
Yeah, yeah. And I like USC. They're one of my favorites. But no, that's
yeah, I think USC will be better this year than last year. But I don't
yeah.
expect them being LSU in week one. That's a tough
No,
matchup for
no,
week one. Also,
no,
yeah, that's a very tough
no.
matchup for them. And it's
Mm-mm.
at LSU. It might be different if it was at USC, but at LSU, yeah, that's hard, man. That's a hard
Yeah,
week one matchup. And I don't know who's taking over for them at quarterback. I
yeah.
know
I don't
that
know who they
quarterback
are
played
either.
for Caleb Williams in the bowl game. He played lights out. And they won that game. He threw like 4 or 5 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams was cheering him on. I can't remember his name, but man, he went off. Maybe he's the one starting. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Don't even know his name, but we'll see how USC's offense is with the different quarterback. I know they're always loaded at wide receiver, though. I
Oh
know
yeah.
that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we'll see
Yeah.
how good their
Both of these
quarterback is.
teams. I mean, LSU's wide receiver university. So yeah. So we might see a good shootout, good
Yeah,
offense, high scoring.
yeah. LSU is wide receiver factory with
Yeah.
all their receivers in the NFL. You're right.
Yeah.
LSU's got a lot of good wide receivers in the NFL.
Probably the losing team will have 38 points.
Yeah, I
That's
think
very
so. It could be
possible.
like a 54-38 game or
Yeah.
55-38,
Yeah.
something crazy like that. Yeah, it's gonna be something like that, man.
Mhm.
It could be. Um, that's crazy when you lose the game, you score 38 points,
Mhm.
but yeah, this is gonna be a shootout, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Those are
so
the best matchups, no? Very all the other ranked teams are playing teams that they should have no
yeah,
problem.
the rest of the games are cupcake games. I do think Michigan has a much tougher game than people think against Fresno State. Me and Brand talked
Yeah.
about that last week. I think Michigan will win, but that they're playing at Ann Arbor, which helps. But Fresno State is kind of like a Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Like they've been to
Yeah.
bowl games 2 or 3 years in a row. They're kind of feisty. You
Yes. They're
know,
always good.
yeah, Michigan can't Michigan has to play.
Yeah.
So they usually play cupcakes early in the season, but Michigan's absolutely not playing cupcakes this year. This is the hardest schedule I've seen them
Yeah.
have in I don't know how long.
Yeah. Now,
No,
Florida
next week
State's
they're
no
playing
joke, man. They're
Texas.
tough. Yeah. Yeah.
Top 10 matchup next week with Texas at Michigan. So yeah, Michigan has a much tougher schedule than I've seen in quite some time early on in the season. So yeah, they're not playing cupcakes this year, and they're before their conference games. So yeah, their non-conference games are tougher than I thought they would be. So yeah, like wow, they're actually playing somebody. Could be good or bad. I'll get them right, that's for sure. Whether they win or lose, they'll get some
Yes.
experience. So um, let's go on the NFL, man. NFL opening now. Cee Dee Lamb finally signed 4 years, $136 million, $100 million guaranteed, the second highest paid non-quarterback. Justin Jefferson is number one, and Cee Dee Lamb is number
Sure.
two. So,
No problem.
what do you think about this, Monty? I know we're pissed at Jerry Jones for taking this long.
And We should know better than this. He does this every year.
Yeah, and yeah, it still pisses us off.
Yeah, he's gonna do this with Michael Parsons next year. So,
Yep, he will.
oh,
He likes
man,
drama, man. Old man likes drama, man.
And Ken, what gets me is Cee Dee Lamb said he wants to make a little bit under what Justin Jefferson's making. That's what he got. What in the world took Jerry Jones so long? What was the big deal?
Yeah,
Had this man sitting out uh training camp, missing out on reps with Dak. I know he's staying in shape and stuff. I'm hoping he's staying in shape,
I'm sure he is.
but it's not the same. You need those reps. You need that
Right,
time.
exactly.
I mean,
That's
he wouldn't
true.
have played the preseason anyway, but he didn't even practice.
But he needs the reps in practice, so you're right.
Yes.
Yeah, he won't play
Yeah.
preseason, but you need the reps.
Oh, it gets me, and I don't understand why Jerry does this. We knew he was going to pay him.
I think he's just a control freak, man. He has to
Yeah.
control everything, man.
So I don't know. If anybody out there has the answer, please tell me because I have no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, this
Well,
I guess under my skin.
the good news is, though, I agree he missed some valuable reps. But here's the good news, though, too, is he does have 2 weeks to prepare, so he will get reps for 2 weeks.
He'll get
so
some. Yeah.
it's better than him not signing until like week 2 or 3, where he definitely doesn't have any reps and they're already into
Right.
the season. So he has a couple weeks, but I agree it's still better to get 4 or 5 weeks versus 2 weeks. Like.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be okay because he will have some time to get. I definitely think he's in shape, but
Yeah.
he'll have the
Yeah.
2 weeks to
I'm
get
sure
the
he's
reps
saving.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highly doubt he's out of shape. I highly doubt that. I just highly doubt that. So he don't have the kind of build to really get fat anyway. He's pretty thin.
No.
So he's one of those thin, muscular, kind of wiry guys. I highly doubt he put on a lot of weight. Well, then again, it's not just about being really on weight; it's just being in game shape.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Game shape. That's what I'm
yeah,
worried about.
he's not out overweight. It's just game
Right.
shape. Yeah.
Right.
So, but he'll get the
Sometimes
2 weeks.
it took what? Zeke, when he held out from his contract, it took him a couple of games to get.
Yeah, it did. It did. It did. You're
So,
right. It did.
I don't know, man.
Well, let's shift gears. I know we didn't talk about this during the pregame before we move on to some other NFL topics. But what about this running back signing? I know you posted something about this today. So what do you think about that? That just came to the top of my head.
Yeah.
We got a running back. I know he's pretty good in the past.
He's going to add depth. If I'm not mistaken, I think they signed him to the practice squad. Eventually, he'll be up in the rotation. They're going to have a 3 to 4 running back rotation with Zeke, Vaughn, Rico Dowdle, and maybe Cook. I mean, they're going to do the running back.
Cook's been good in the past.
Yeah.
He was real good in Minnesota.
Last year, he was just behind Breece Hall, and Breece Hall top 2 or 3 running back last year, so that's not his fault. There's just a better guy in front of him. He went to Baltimore for I think the start of the season, then something happened there where they just let him go, and now he's with Dallas. So I don't think it'll hurt him. I mean, they're running, like I said, their running game is a little suspect anyway.
Yes, was last year too. Yeah.
So I don't think it makes them worse.
I don't think so. You're adding a veteran, so I agree. I don't think it makes you worse.
Yeah.
He could come in big as the season goes along.
Yeah. And this season I have no idea what to expect from this team as a whole. I might be sounding a little negative, but I'm still a little ticked off from that Green Bay loss and them not doing anything in the offseason. They did pretty well in the draft, so I'm happy about that. So I guess it's a wait and see thing for me. I mean, I expect them to. It'll be a tough to win 12 games this year. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, if they go 12-5 4 years in a row, that'd be crazy.
Yeah,
I still think they're a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to do a whole lot this year. To be honest with you, maybe next year, but this year might be a down year for them. Honestly.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm a little worried here, and this running back situation, I mean, they could have signed somebody else.
That's
I
why I'm
mean,
still so pissed at Jerry Jones, the whole entire coaching staff, because they had the draft to do this and they didn't do it.
mhm.
I love Dak Prescott, but he needs to take pressure off. They need to take pressure off him by having a good
Yeah,
running game. So he doesn't have to
yeah,
throw 45, 50 times a game and risk throwing pick sixes and risk throwing interceptions at inopportune time, which is
mhm.
what he's known for. That's his Achilles heel.
Yeah,
You know, the crazy thing about Dak Prescott, his stats are really good as a starting quarterback. If you look, because I see all kinds of Facebook meme posts, and you look at his stats the first like 6 or 7 years of his career, and he's up there with some of the best quarterbacks to play the
yeah,
game. But the problem is he doesn't have the playoff wins,
right.
you know. So like I think Dak Prescott is really good when it comes to a stat perspective, but there's this game sense part of him that's kind of lacking a little bit, and he doesn't win big games. That's what's hurting him because yeah, his stats might be the same as some of these really high level top tier quarterbacks that are probably Hall of Famers, but
Mhm.
they win big playoff games though, or they win
Yeah,
playoff big games to get them into the playoffs. Like so. I think the stat is true, but the stat is like a little bit misleading in some
yeah. To
ways.
an extent, yes,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. So it's interesting, but yeah, I like Dak though because I know a lot of people are against him, so I always
Yeah,
kind of cheer for him because of that. But yeah, so many people are against him, whether you're a Cowboys fan or not. So all the non-Cowboys fans think we're crazy for keeping him. I know that they talk trash to me about that every single time. They think
uh,
we're crazy.
no, if they let him go, they'd have to start all over again,
I
and
agree. I
yeah,
agree.
because
And we
trading
don't know how
off,
good a rookie quarterback's going to be. Now everyone's going to be C.J. Stroud.
yeah,
It
so
usually
no,
takes 3 or 4 years for a rookie quarterback to get developed.
yeah,
That's why me and Brandon talked about last year. I think it's a blessing J.J. McCarthy got hurt, so he's not a bust in his first year. So
right, right,
yeah, so we don't know how rookie quarterbacks are going to be. So I think we had to keep Dak Prescott also. He does have playoff experience.
yeah,
So, but let's talk about Brandon Ayuk. That was he signs a 4-year guaranteed deal, a
mhm.
little less than Dak and Justin Jefferson, but still pretty good. $100 million, 76 guaranteed million
Whew,
guaranteed. That's still pretty dang
that's
good.
very good. Wow.
And he's not as good as those other guys. Is Brandon Ayuk good? Yes, he is, but he's not
Mhm.
no Cee Dee Lamb and he's not Justin Jefferson. I know that for a fact.
Yeah,
He's like a number two receiver. He's not a number one receiver. He's like a really, 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 really good number two kind of guy.
he he might be the best number two in the league.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
we can
Yeah,
argue that.
yeah, you can
Uh,
argue that.
I don't know the situation with San Francisco, the reason for the holdup for him. I have
Yeah,
no clue what's going on there. I did hear a lot of chatter about the possibility of him not being there, seeing trade options and trade packages for different teams and stuff like that. But me personally, I didn't think they were going to trade him. I mean, he's too good. I mean, he's a big part of
yeah, he is a big part of them getting the
why
Super
he
Bowl last year.
gets into
Yeah,
the
he's a
Super
big part
Bowl
of
and
the
the
team.
playoffs. So yeah. So now I don't know why that was delayed. I mean, he's another guy that deserves that money. He's a very good
Yeah,
running back, receiver.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's and again, I mean, another guy missed out on training camp. Uh, I don't think he went to training camp or anything like
I
that.
don't
So
think so. Not if he's just signing a deal. I highly doubt he did. I could be
yes,
wrong, but I don't think he went.
yeah, some of these guys do go, but I don't believe he did either. So I don't know what the deal was with that, but yeah, it's a good thing he signed. I'm not a 49er fan, but he's a good player. I mean, I don't want him sitting out. I
Yeah,
want,
we hate the 49ers and so do Seattle Seahawks fans here because that's a big rivalry in their
yeah,
division. They're by
yeah,
far
but
the biggest rivalry for the
yeah,
the division here, the NFC West. So
but
yeah,
yeah,
Seattle
but the
Seahawks fans hate
NFL's a
that.
lot better when these guys are playing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I want these guys playing.
For us, it's a big rivalry in the playoffs, but for Seattle Seahawks fans, it's a big rivalry during the regular season, playing each
Oh,
other
that's
twice
right.
a year. So
Yeah,
yeah, they can't stand them. So, um, let's talk about Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation. Kind of a flip of the coin, Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. I know their coach Mike Tomlin is going with Russell Wilson. We kind of talked about this in pregame before we went
Mhm.
live. I understand why Tomlin's playing Russell Wilson because Tomlin's never had a losing season in his 17, 18-year career, which is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Mhm.
He hasn't always made the playoffs, but he's never had a losing season, so that's really, really, really good. So obviously you have to trust his gut instinct. So I get why he's going with Russell Wilson because Russ is not the same player he
Yeah.
once was 4 or 5 years ago, but he is a veteran quarterback, has won a Super Bowl. Honestly, should have won 2 Super Bowls in a row if Pete Carroll didn't
Yeah.
screw it up, and but he's not in his prime. I really like Justin Fields. I don't think Justin Fields played bad in Chicago. I know there might be some controversy that could be a big debate, but I think Justin Fields is a really good quarterback, and he probably is, in my opinion, better than Russell Wilson. But even though he's better than Russell Wilson has the experience. I think that's what Tomlin
Yeah.
is going with. I think Russell Wilson's almost to the very end of his career, almost
Yeah.
not kind of almost not washed up, but pretty close to being washed up.
Yeah.
And Justin Fields has his whole career ahead of him. So what's your take on that?
Yeah. I think I would have gone with Wilson as well. But let me say this: uh, I give him 5 games, and after that, he will he will get benched, and we'll see Justin Fields the rest of the season. Was it past what 3 or 4 seasons? Pittsburgh game one, week one starter has been the different one. It was who was it? Pickett last year.
Yep.
Trubisky the year before that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
And
point.
it may have been even somebody else the year before that. Now I'm gonna have to look that up. So, man, it's amazing what Tomlin has done since Roethlisberger's been gone with this quarterback situation. I thought Pickett was the guy. I mean, I thought he was
I
better
did too. I
than.
thought he looked good. He's a hometown kid.
Yeah,
I liked Pickett.
yeah,
He
yeah,
got hurt, right? He got hurt.
yeah.
That's what did
So he
it.
wasn't the same. So yeah, I liked him too coming out of the pit. I was like, man, they found their quarterback already, but nah, I guess not. But yeah, that's my prediction. Mark it down, folks. Week 5, it'll be Justin Fields.
It could be. And Russell Wilson has not started the season good the last 2 years. Obviously,
Yeah.
he did play better last year as a whole, much better than his first year in Denver. So he was better overall last year. His stats were a lot better. Quarterback rating was a lot higher. Everything was better, like I said. But
Mhm.
I agree though. I think he could get benched, and I just don't. I really the sad thing is I really like Russell
Yeah,
Wilson.
so do I. So do I.
Good guy. He's a good guy for the league. High character guy. He was such a good quarterback for about 10 years.
Yes.
You know, he had a good like 10, 11-year run, and now it's just kind of I mean, some quarterbacks could play in the league for a long time, like Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, and of course Tom Brady playing who's freaking 45. I mean, so some guys can still play at a high level, being in their late 30s, pushing 40, but I don't think that's Russell Wilson.
No, no.
He seems like it's almost his time.
Yeah.
He's right around mid 30s. I don't know how old he is. I'm guessing he's like, don't quote me on this, folks, but I think he's around 34 or 35.
Yes. I'm not sure either, but somewhere around there. I think you're right.
So yeah, we'll see how he does, man. So yeah, but I agree. I think I don't want him to get benched, but I think there could be a quarterback change. But the thing with Tomlin is when do you change him? Because you don't want to change. This is for any coach, not just with the Tomlin, the Russell Wilson situation with Tomlin. But when do you change a quarterback to save your season? Obviously, you want to give your starting quarterback a chance because you don't want them to lose confidence. You don't want to bench him off a couple bad games. You
Right.
want to give him a chance. Because you don't
Yes.
want them to lose confidence. You don't want to have a knee jerk reaction. Is what I'm saying. So when is the right time to bench a quarterback to save your season? I think it's a really hard decision, man. Yeah, especially with a veteran guy that's won a Super Bowl. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. If he'll, I think if they have a very stagnant offense the first couple of games, it doesn't have to be interception after interception, just maybe a lot of incomplete passes, inconsistency.
Yeah, a lot of 3-and-outs. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they can make a change. That's why I think we'll see. Just get some fresh legs, someone who can extend the play like Fields can. Um, yeah, it'll be a situation like that. This will be the reason why he gets benched, not necessarily interceptions.
I agree, and he's not known for throwing a whole lot of picks.
No,
Usually not.
no,
You're
no.
right. It's more about just the offense not doing anything. Yeah, I
Right.
agree with you on that. I agree. But we shall see, folks. We shall
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
man. We shall see, man. Ah, another good show. Before we close, I'm watching the Minnesota North Carolina game. It's 14-10 with about 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. Minnesota's up 14-10. Actually, Minnesota's punting the ball back to North Carolina, so I wonder if they could take the lead here. So that's a good game going on right now for week one. It's not these two teams aren't ranked, but they're both pretty good, solid non-ranked teams. Though these teams are very good D1 teams that aren't ranked. So one of them could possibly be ranked later on as the season goes along to keep on, winning games. So we got a good one going on right now.
Yeah, it's another good one on ESPN. Watching Colorado and North Dakota State. Colorado's up 31-26. They're about a minute and a half left. They're trying to run the clock out, get out there with a win. Man, North
The
Carolina
game was
State
closer than
gave
I
them,
thought it'd be.
yeah, gave them, North Dakota State rather, gave them all trouble they can
Well, I know
have.
they're a really good,
Yeah,
team in their whatever level they're at. They're
yeah,
always they're solid.
yeah. They've won like 9 titles or something like that.
Yeah, they're solid. Yeah, they
Yeah,
are good. And Trey Lance obviously came out there, the Cowboys' backup quarterback, if I
yeah,
remember correctly.
yeah.
So
His brother is a receiver on that team.
nice,
Yeah.
nice, nice,
Man,
nice.
Shadur Sanders had, I think, 3 touchdown passes. Travis Hunter had 2 of those for touchdowns, so long
Yeah,
ones too.
Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter are good. I don't know what's wrong with the rest of Colorado, but yeah,
Yeah.
Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter are they're legit. They're
Oh yeah.
legit NFL prospects. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Hopefully, it's only the first week of the year though, so I
Yeah.
think they just need to escape with a win
Yeah.
and just
And
build
I
off
think they got
that.
the top offensive lineman out of high school on that team. So
Nice.
yeah, it looks like they're gonna get out of here with one, maybe. So they minute and a half left.
All right. I hope they do. If not, that's gonna be big talk if they lose. I know it's only
Oh
week one,
yeah.
but they'll be talking because Deion Sanders gets a
Yeah.
lot of hype whether he wins or
Oh yeah.
loses. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but I want them to win. Obviously, some people want him to lose because they want to see it. Because people like upsets, and I like upsets too. But I do like Deion Sanders
Oh
though.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's a good man. So, anyways, we'll close, folks. Thanks. Another great show. I'm just glad football is back.
Yeah.
I got my first games coming up next week for Friday Night Lights.
Nice.
So yeah, my season's about to start, man. So I'm excited. I just had a dinner with my crew. Our head referee said, "Hey, let's get together for dinner if you guys are available this week." To kind of this for like even though we already know each other, like this for bonding, just kind of like get to hang out
Yeah.
before the season starts. So because the way we're doing it here is we're gonna be on the same crew for varsity games every week, except for like when someone can't make the game, they'll be like an alternate, but we're doing it by crews this year for varsities. In the past, sometimes there's always random crews every varsity game, but the past 2 years, our referee association has made crews, except when people can't make it for like anniversaries, being sick,
Right.
being hurt.
Right.
Then we'll switch out one guy out of the crew so they can take their spot. But that's kind of our way of doing things. So we got together, for dinner tonight before we did the show. So that was kind of cool. Had a couple of beers, had some pizza. It was fun.
Nice.
But
Nice.
I love it though. Can't wait. It'll keep me in shape. But
Well, that's what I
yeah.
need. Shoot.
But yeah, thanks for watching, folks, and thanks for subscribing,
Yes.
man. You got anything in closing, Monty?
No, no. Football's here. Football's here. enjoy it. Good weekend of football coming up. We
Yeah,
got
man.
Pro next week. Can't wait to get into that. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
next week
time.
is the top 10 matchup if Michigan wins their game versus, Fresno State this week. It'll be a top 10 matchup,
Mhm.
number 4 Texas versus number 9 Michigan. That's going to be another good one. We'll be talking about that next week for sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. Peace out. Have a good night,
All
people.
right.